thank you. At this time, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Human Services Committee. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If the clerk could take the roll, please.
Commissioner Samasco.
Present.
Commissioner Baldwin. Commissioner Bohm. Commissioner Torello.
Here.
Commissioner Rushing.
Here.
Commissioner Vandenbosch.
Here.
Commissioner Beaton.
Present. Just as a point of order for some of our folks in the audience that this might be your first meeting, there are a series of 4 meetings this evening. The first one is the Human Services Committee. So if you did put in for citizen comment, it will be in the appropriate committee depending on what the topic is. So if you're not called in the first meeting, don't worry. When we get to the proper meeting, citizens will be heard for it. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda?
Make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. For citizens wishing to be heard tonight, I have Virginia Curry about the library.
Evening. I'm Virginia Corey. I'm president of the Friends of the Library for St. Clair County. And I apologize. I thought that this was the meeting where the new commissioners were seated. And I was going to congratulate them on their recent win in the elections. I attend almost all of the library board meetings, in addition to my own committee, my own Friends of the Library. And I just wanted to take a moment, if y'all aren't aware, we have a very talented group of people. They have a lot of vision, they put in a lot of hard work, and I just wanted to recognize their efforts and the efforts of the staff to work together to create our just phenomenal library system. We recently had hosted a countywide Friends of the Library meeting, and was well attended, and I just want to speak to you all and let you know how very thrilled all of these ladies and gentlemen that attended were with the present system, the new resources and technologies that are available. And I could sit here all night long and tell you about all the exciting things that the library does, but just to highlight two things. Coming up soon, we're going to have a bookmobile. That was the biggest talk at the Friends of the Library meeting, countywide meeting. They were so excited, and I've heard hundreds of people have commented to me about how excited they are that it's coming. The other thing is the youth programs that have been, over the last few years, expanded and have been very, very well received. They fill a need in our community, and they're very popular, and they dovetail very nicely with our schools and with homeschool population, which is a pretty significant group of people in our area, you may be aware. So I wanted to I just thought it was appropriate that a citizen come in and tell you guys that you're doing a great job and that we're really happy with the library, and continue to look forward to the things that are to come. Thank you for your time.
Eileen Tesh. Eileen Tesh.
Eileen Tesh, Elginak. I really feel that we need to pray. And since you don't start with a prayer, I'm just here to pray a blessing over all of you, for the Holy Spirit, for wisdom, revelation, and understanding. Because if you haven't noticed, we are in a spiritual warfare. And according to Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12, our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers and against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. So what that means is our God of the universe and the power of the Holy Spirit will fight the battle for us. We just need to show up. Thank you all for showing up. And God promises that the evil will be destroyed, and all of those involved will be punished for and all these wicked people will be punished for their lies, deception, and fear, because God loves justice and judgment. We pray this in Jesus' name. Thank you.
Leanne Klink. Leanne Klink.
Good evening. As said, I am Leanne Klink. I've lived most of my life in St. Clair County. I'm currently a resident in Port Huron. I'm a bachelor's prepared RN, and I've been a nurse for 30 years. As a current director of Sparrow Pregnancy Center in Port Huron, I serve as a member of multiple committees that are local and regional. They address many health concerns in the area, and I am an active member in 2 state boards that are affiliated with medical organizations. As a lifelong learner, reading, researching, and attending classes on a wide variety of health issues have heightened some of the issues that St. Clair County residents face in their well-being. It's important to be involved in your community, I should say, and I try to participate in different organizations and different activities. I'm interested in becoming a member of the Health Advisory Board, which is why I'm here. If an opening does occur, I would like to be considered. I have submitted an application as well. And hopefully the knowledge that I've learned with researching and education will be of benefit to you, the community, and the community at large. And I just wanted to say thank you and introduce myself. So have a good evening.
Are there any updates this evening from any commissioners? None. Any conceptual initiatives? Hearing none, no old business. Moving on to new business. The Commission on Aging contract services for the Council on Aging, Lakeshore Legal Aid, Sanborn Gresham Memorial Home, and Visiting Nurses Association for 2024 and 25.
Make a motion, send to the full board.
Support. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm
Aye.
sorry, any discussion?
Sorry.
Sorry, I got excited. No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 7B, the Commission on Aging and Blue Water Safe Horizons 2025 contract.
Motion send to full board.
Thank you. Support. Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 7C, the St. Clair County Library System, the McNaughton Book Plan Subscription Renewal.
Make a motion, send to the full board.
Support. Thank you. Any discussion?
I have a question. I don't know if anyone can answer it, it's somebody in the library, but who reviews like these contracts for the books for content? Who does that or how does it? Is that our library board that does that, or is that the director that picks those out, do you know?
I believe that is done by our library staff, the director and our librarians.
So it's more internal, it's not so much the library board, it would be internal with our director and the staff, maybe?
Yes, I believe so.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 7D, the approval of the fiscal year 25 St. Clair County Department of Veteran Affairs County Veterans Service Fund Grant.
Make a motion to send that to the board.
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Are there any other human services matters to be brought forward tonight? No. Item 9, for information only, the Health Department points of interest for November of this year.
Motion to receive and file.
Thank you. Support. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 10, to receive and file packets.
Motion.
Support. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item-
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Support. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.
It's so annoying. I'm sick.
Let's call the Public Safety Judiciary Committee to board. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Samasco,
Present.
Commissioner Baldwin,
Here.
Commissioner Beeden,
Present?
Commissioner Bohm, Commissioner Trello,
Here.
Commissioner Rushing,
Here.
Commissioner Vanden Bosch.
Here. Any additions, deletions? If not, approval for the agenda, please.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Right now, I have no citizens to be heard. Anybody got any for public safety? And any updates from the commissioners? No conceptual initiatives? No old business, new business, fiscal year 2025 subcontract between Michigan Mental Health Court and the Huron House.
I would move that to full board.
Support?
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Moving on to fiscal year 2025 subcontract between Michigan Mental Health Court and Blue Water DRP LLC.
Make a motion to move that to full board.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Fiscal year 2025 Mental Health Court Grant Program Letter of Agreement with Community Mental Health.
Move to full board, please.
Support.
Any questions on this one? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Local Emergency Planning Committee appointments.
Motion to send it full board.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. St. Clair County Sheriff's Marine Division building rental for 25 to 27.
Second, I think, whatever she said, I second.
Motion to send to full board.
Any questions?
Dave, what is that for? Is that a storage or is that an office? What is
That's the office down at Conley Marine, down on the bay.
Has it been there the same, pretty much the same office it's been for a long time?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Moving on to 31st Circuit Court Family Division Juvenile Intervention Unit Proposal.
Motion to send it full board.
Support.
Any questions on this one? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 31st Circuit Court Family Division Biz Stream Youth Center Proposal.
Make a motion to send that to full board.
Second.
Any questions on this one? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 31st Circuit Court Family Division Functional Family Therapy Implementation.
Move that to full board.
Support.
Any questions? Just don't ask me to say implementation again. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Inmate Medical and Mental Health Services Contract.
Make a motion to send that to full board.
Support.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Sheriff's Office Informer Systems Contract Renewal Scheduling Software.
Motion to send full board.
Support.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Last one. Fiscal year 2025 Mental Health Court Grant Program Agreement for Corrections for final action.
Make a motion to approve for final action.
Support.
The reason for that, Carrie, why is this a final action item? Timelines, I suppose?
Yeah, I believe this is just to meet the grant deadlines.
It's a correction.
Oh, it's a correction, I'm sorry.
Okay. Ministerial in nature.
The amount was wrong at the last meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Does this require a roll call?
Yes. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Samasco,
Yes.
Commissioner Baldwin,
Yes.
Commissioner Beaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Trello,
Yes.
Commissioner Rushing,
Yes.
Commissioner Vandenbach.
Yes. Motion carried. All other any public safety matters. Can I get a motion to receive and file packets?
So moved or supported.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Adjournment.
Motion
To adjourn.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
At this time, I'd like to call the Board of Commissioners Environmental Public Works Committee meeting to order. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Samasco,
Present.
Commissioner Baldwin, Commissioner Beaton,
Present.
Commissioner Bohm, Commissioner Rushing,
Here.
Commissioner Vandenbach.
Here.
Commissioner Trello.
Here. Is there any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda?
Make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Is any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. I've got a few names tonight. So I'm going to start with Andrea Herring in regards to solar.
My name is Andrea Herring, and I am from Fort Gratiot Township. And as you all know, our township did sell us out to the solar company. We had a board meeting last night, and during the board meeting, we are not allowed to ask questions, so they do not have to answer them. So we asked for a special meeting, and we were told by our new supervisor that he has already spoken to the board, and they have refused to come to a special meeting and answer any questions that we as residents have. Now, I'm not the only resident in Fort Gratiot Township that has questions about how and why this all happened without any public comment before the vote was taken and they decided to accept the consent agreement. I know y'all said that you don't step into township business if you don't need to, but we as residents have a lot of questions, and we feel that the board should be answering our questions. So I'm here to ask tonight where you all are at with helping us out, because we've been to, the last 2, possibly 3 meetings asking for your help, but we feel we deserve answers. So I just wanted to bring that to someone's attention that can maybe step in, help us out. We want answers. Thank you.
If you would, please contact me. We normally don't respond, but please contact me later and I can assist you.
Welcome. Austin Richardson?
Hello. My name's Austin Richardson. I'm also from Fort Gratiot Township. Lived there my entire life and recently had industrial solar come knocking on our door. It was very sad to see the manner in which it was portrayed to the community, because it was not very well known until one person told another person who told another person. But none of that was our township taking the proactive choice to inform the community and get their consent. After the community rallied together to fight industrial solar and all the terrible things that come with it, even though it's portrayed in such a positive light by these industrial solar groups, it was found not to be so. We rallied together to fight it. We thought we did a great job. We did do a great job, but Fort Gratiot Township continues to ignore what its citizens have been fighting for a very long time now, and through a lot of energy and time of these citizens, and then to not have any of that voice heard or respected by the people that we've elected and the people that are supposed to represent the people, and it's just very disheartening. I would love to see more action from anyone that is able to help. I know the Fort Gratiot Board and our township has failed to represent us maliciously after many public comments and from many people in the community rallying together to voice how we feel about solar coming into the agricultural land. It's just sad to see everyone come together to voice such an opinion and such a serious issue, and then to be ignored by 4 or 5 people. That won't be as impacted as all these surrounding neighbors who will be butted right up to this industrial solar project. So I just urge you guys as much as possible to be as proactive as you can, give as much guidance as you can, because it has been very disheartening to see what Fort Gratiot Township Board has done and failed to represent. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Shane Richardson.
Good evening. My name is Shane Richardson, and I have lived in St. Clair County my whole life as well. I did go away to college briefly to continue my education and decided that I wanted to come back to this county and this community because it meant so much to me. I've always been a great fan of the Great Lakes. I've always loved the outdoors and the beautiful area and how supportive the community has been throughout my whole upbringing. I'm here tonight to urge this county to invest in resources into fighting this industrial solar project. I'm here to do that for multiple reasons. Very recently, there had been over 78 municipalities and 6 counties that filed legal action against Public Act 233. I'm curious why in Fort Gratiot, if the restrictions at the state level were so much less than they were at Fort Gratiot's level, why did Ranger Power not take it to the state level to have less restrictions and save a lot of money? Instead, they rushed this deal through with Fort Gratiot Township. Many states within this country have done this similar proposal where they've taken away control from the local counties. And it has been reversed in many states like Minnesota and Ohio to give control back to the local communities. In this county, we already have a nuclear waste site, we have unhealthy landfills, and we have chemical factories. I'm here to ask the board tonight, when is enough enough? Our township has had thousands of residents sign petitions against this proposal. This proposal was settled within our township a few days before our new supervisor took charge. The new supervisor was firm that he was not wanting to settle at a local end or within the county. He wanted to take it to the state. I feel that this was wrongdoing, and for the vote to be 4-3 and the new supervisor not to be for it, I believe that this was very much backwards. Our hands are tied at a Fort Gratiot Township end. So we're here tonight, many of us are here tonight to try and urge you to do something. Thank you very much.
Sarah Beebe?
Hello, thank you. My name is Sarah Beebe. I live in Fort Gratiot as well. And to kind of go back to what others have been saying, the township board had hit a lot from us in regards to the industrial solar, and we realized it and confronted them at the meetings, and they have been going against us except for Mr. Armbruster and Mr. Kish. And the biggest proponent behind everything since the beginning has been Ms. Baldwin, and who has not been at the most recent meetings. Again, and in the past, I'd brought up concerns that potentially she had been the recipient of some funds from the solar. You know, obviously we have no evidence of that, but based on the lack of information for the residents of Fort Gratiot, I'm still something that I'm concerned about. And the fact that, like I said, she's been such a big proponent for the industrial solar for our area. She hasn't been at the meetings. And there's a lot of conflict of interest all around that. Like what kind of education, I guess, do you have to even be the proponent that you are for solar for Fort Gratiot? I know that the document that you had submitted for a position says at some college. What kind of college? I'm curious, you know, whether it's in government, environmental, because as a nurse, I need to have a nursing degree, and I do. And I know that we're also not allowed to take gifts in nursing. We're not allowed to receive gifts from patients, companies, things like that. So I'm just very concerned if she's been receiving payments from solar, and then she's thrown us to the wolves. She had a house in Fort Gratiot, and then she sold it and moved to Port Huron. But if solar is so good in Fort Gratiot, why did you move? That's another concern, because then we're stuck. Nobody's gonna wanna buy our houses. And I wanna move to Tennessee, and if I'm stuck, I'm going to be very unhappy. I know a lot of other people will as well. But again, my biggest concern is Ms. Baldwin and her in all of these different little areas, hiding everything from us, and then she runs. So, thank you.
Jennifer McDonald.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer McDonald. I'm a resident of Birchville Township. And while I am not a St. Clair County native, I've lived in a number of other states, and I've lived here in St. Clair County longer than I've lived anywhere else in my life. And it's a beautiful area. We have a lot of great resources, and it's a great county. I'd like to add my voice to the concerns expressed in previous meetings and at the county and level and also at various township meetings. There are a variety of issues at hand. Improper zoning, environmental concerns, energy efficiency and effectiveness, a lack of transparency, health concerns for citizens, and property values. I urge you to move very, very slowly in approving any new projects in industrial solar or wind. I urge you to move very, very quickly to halt any projects that are in the works. I ask you to be transparent and involve the people of the county and to represent all the people who have elected you. Thank you.
Liz Masters.
Thank you and good evening. Liz Masters, Wales Township. I'd just like to reflect, hopefully take very little of your time, but item 7G is of my most serious concern. And I do see you nodding your head. Thank you. Obviously, we've heard from a lot of Fort Gratiot residents through the past few months, and my feelings go out to you all. Any kind of support we'll definitely offer. But I would just like to speak to the board before any very expensive mistakes are made or poor choices. And when I say expensive, I don't just mean financial. I mean the health and the welfare and the quality of life for our residents. This scares me to the bone, item 7G, because the decisions that were made in Fort Gratiot and how Fort Gratiot was coordinated by their director, Georgia Baldwin, all played out. And what would happen if Baldwin was placed on Metro Planning Commission is it would be totally against the rules of planning, and it would be more so for personal gain. I just draw attention to that, and also I would hope that this commission would look deeper and further into our local EDA in the future and watch funding that goes towards that as well. Cut the ties, just like hopefully federal and state will cut the ties on this rapid wheel moving towards renewable energy. Thank you so much.
Ashley Richardson.
Good evening. My name is Ashley Richardson. I'm a lifelong resident of St. Clair County. I am also a physician assistant. I've been practicing for 14 years, and I actively serve members of our community. Prior to that, I was a registered nurse for 6 years. And I am here tonight to ask for support from all of you in examining this industrial solar project much more closely and helping us from stopping it from going forward. This is not just an issue that is in Fort Gratiot. This is an issue that will affect all of St. Clair County and all of our residents, which is why we are here tonight. To start, I have already seen the poor health effects on our community members, my family, my neighbors, and even my patients, many of whom are senior citizens. They are coming in with anxiety, depression, insomnia. The thought of this project going forward is completely debilitating to them. They don't want to move. They didn't invest their entire lives into their homes in St. Clair County for it to be destroyed by an industrial solar project. My concerns are grave for the community. If implemented, there are also further concerns. There is a great deal of noise generated by these solar farms. It's constant. I'm concerned for increase in issues such as migraines and for people with auditory sensitivities, not to mention the daily stress of living with a constant whine going into your ears. Not only is it the physical, safety concerns I have, but also we have looked at these projects near our community. Shiawassee is one of the prime examples. And the barriers to keep out citizens, whether or not obviously they shouldn't be in them, but they're not there. The gates, when we went over to Shiawassee, were unlocked. They've had theft for the gas supply stations for the inverters. So it's a big concern for our community, for the safety of our people who are going to be in the surrounding areas as well. The other huge concern I have is that there are toxic chemicals that do go into our ground from these solar panels. And there have been no independent studies, which our residents have asked for, to assess the effects of this on the health of our citizens. These chemicals will leach into our drinking water, our soil, and eventually into our Great Lakes. So I urge you tonight to please consider how you can help us in stopping this move forward. It's very important. Thank you.
Linda Schweidhofer?
Good evening, and thank you for your time. I am Linda Schweidhofer, a newly elected supervisor of China Township. I've spoken before this group a number of times, and I will reiterate again my concerns. My heart goes out to our neighbors to the north and what they are suffering at this present moment. And I don't want to see it happen to them, and I don't want to see it happen to the rest of our community. I too am a lifelong member of St. Clair County. We live on a sesquicentennial farm. We were prideful of that. We protect that, and we need your help. We can do some things as local communities, but you have much more power to be able to enact some real change and to put the brakes on this. We already put a moratorium on the battery plants and that part of it. Solar is a big issue, and now we're faced with a Bitcoin mine, which I learned a lot about. I was not educated about that, brand new, and they kind of fizzled, and they had chosen a very inappropriate spot, and they're gone. But we about ready to take a sigh of relief, and then we realized that a data center wants to come. And when one comes, another comes, and another comes. But we have all the same concerns. And I did speak with Dr. Nevin. We're not making this stuff up. The concerns for people's health, safety, and welfare, which we have been charged, and you have been charged to look out for. And I believe that I'm in the seat that I'm in today for that very reason, because there was some movement underway that looked like, they were going to roll us over, and we're not doing that. We actually are going to be looking at a moratorium for data centers. We want to put the brakes on, and I would ask and encourage the county to do the same thing until they've done more research, to get some kind of ordinances in place. So I would just implore you to help us and do the job that you have been elected to do, so that we in turn will be more readily able to do what we have been elected to do. Thank you.
Sandra Richardson?
Good evening. Sandra Richardson, 4126 Cole Road, Fort Gratiot, Michigan. Lifelong resident in Fort Gratiot and St. Clair County. Been in Fort Gratiot my entire life. So I come to you again tonight to ask for your help in trying to come to some understanding for why we are where we are, because we're in dire need of someone with some intelligence to get a hold of this and explain to the residents why this would be beneficial, which we know it would not be, but we can't get our board to sit down and have a meeting. We asked them again last night at a planning, or at a board of trustees meeting, would you hold a special planning or a meeting where you would invite the residents that a lot of them don't even know where we are with this because they thought it was on hold when the planning commission turned it down unanimously. The planning commission, every member on there turned this down when they had this meeting at the convention center. And with 5 main reasons they stated, and one of the most important ones is the health and safety of our residents. And not to mention that it doesn't meet the needs for the master plan in Fort Gratiot, but the most important is the health and safety of us residents. How can that not be addressed? How can they not hire out independent research to explain if this is a problem, which we've done on our own to find out that it is a big problem? And I bring this newspaper to you this evening, and it goes back to October 12th, 2023, when Fort Gratiot Solar Hearing paused their meeting due to a huge crowd. Now, this meeting was to take place at the Fort Gratiot Township Hall, and there was hundreds of people that couldn't get into the meeting, so they had to reschedule this meeting because back then in October of 2012, or in 23 in October, people showed up and asked for help. People asked for them to do research and study these projects, and none of that was done in a manner that was shared with the residents on what their conclusions were or how it could affect us. So again, when we asked them last night to have a meeting to show us how they come to this decision, they said they wouldn't have a meeting, and if we wanted to come in individually and talk to them in the township office, that could be a possibility, but they would not. I run into people every day at the department stores asking me, where are we with this solar project? Because they don't know. Everything's been hidden, and all these meetings that they've had, special meetings, were very short notice, and a lot of citizens couldn't go to them. So what I'm asking is that you realize the problems, and please address this, and realize that our Township Board of Trustees are dangerous to our community. They don't belong there because they're making rash decisions that are going to affect us for a lifetime and our lifetime. So I ask you to please look at the seriousness of this and come out, drive down the whole site and see these residential homes that are affected.
You're going to have to wrap it up.
Vicki Blackburn?
Good evening. I hadn't planned on speaking. However, I would like to congratulate the community for using your voices regarding solar. Way back when all this first started, I remember signing a petition you guys passed around. I can't sit here, though, and have one of our esteemed commissioners being called out by name and accused of taking money behind the scenes, and the person saying that there's no proof. Not only is it highly inappropriate, I think it's, I don't know, council may know if it's even illegal, but as a citizen who appreciates what you're doing, I just think that you need to be careful about making accusations to someone without evidence of anything happening. Thank you.
Vance Richardson.
Vance Richardson. I live in Fort Gratiot. I've spoke several times here, and certainly again tonight, and I hope that you not only hear us, but you listen to us and you take it to heart. It's a serious problem going on in Fort Gratiot. You're hearing that, of course, your entire county, but it's a cancer spreading. It's already bit us at Fort Gratiot. There's some serious diehards there. I won't mention names, but from the very beginning, over a year ago, with hundreds and hundreds of people speaking 3 minutes apiece against this, no one speaking in Florida. And when you say, how many people want to live near this? On several different meetings, nobody does. I spent the last 12 years of my life working in a residential group home for the mentally ill. If you don't think that's a challenge, try it. Retire and try it for the next 12 years. Now, what does that have to do with this? Can you imagine going to counseling, being on medications, and going to a home in Fort Gratiot surrounded by a fence with danger signs, living in a solar prison, so to speak, and going outside and listening to this hum in the morning, 45 decibels, listening in the afternoon, listening in the evening. Can you imagine trying to relax and recover with the struggles of life? Now we have ordinary citizens. They can't come here. They're sick at home. They can't sleep. You've got people here that can't sleep. It's bothering people. You've got people I talk to devastated. Devastated. Think about that. About the thought of having this in your backyard. And it's more than one person. It's quite a few. And you're surrounding the entire community with this. These people can't sleep. They're sick. That's not helping the mental health of the area. The noise, yes, I've been over to Shiawassee. I've spoke about that numerous times. Why don't they fix it? If it's so simple. Oh, Fort Gratiot, don't worry about it. You have different rules over here. We'll follow those rules. Yeah, just like when you turn them down, what do? They run to court. So every time there's a disagreement, run to court. This is not a good thing for the community. It's not a good thing for the township. It's not a good thing for the county. Please look into this thing and stop it. It does affect
Need you to
mental
wrap it up,
health.
please. Thank you. Your 3 minutes are up. I'm sorry, everybody
Thank
gets
you.
3 minutes.
Libby Prill.
Good evening. Good evening. Libby Prill from China Township, Georgia. So you got out. They're stuck. Their homes aren't worth a nickel. You got out. They're stuck. Okay. So, I think that, following a lot of this, doing a lot of research, we kind of go between people who are very cavalier about it to people who are very fearful. You get the guy on the one side who, whatever, calls me a NIMBY, and that's true. I'm a total NIMBY, not in my backyard. I don't want it there. This isn't, I had my American dream. I worked years to get out here, and build what I have. And, I escaped, working. I retired really exhausted. And I didn't retire early to come out and live next to, a noisy data center or a noisy solar field. So that's very reasonable. I don't think that the sky is falling, but I do find myself looking upwards quite a bit. people in small towns, in rural areas have the right to their culture. You know, there's a lot of ways that we could coexist with this, you know, simply by taking a look at recycling blight, looking at, you know, how other countries have done, you know, putting solar panels over parking lots, putting them on, you know, building roofs, putting them along freeways. You know, there are health effects from all of this, and I think that that's just really non-debatable. And, you know, when you have some of these, you know, you see a study and then you find out that the study was paid for by the green energy lobby. You know, you have to be really careful of what you believe. And in the end, listen, we have heard some of the most ridiculous things. I just looked at a study today where the solar company came in and told the people, your homes are not going to be devalued. Look at this. There was no devaluation. Look at the comparables. The comparables that they used was an industrial area by an airport. Not a single residential home resided there. These people play dirty. You know, and I'm a good Christian woman, but, you know, it's not we're Christian soldiers now. You know, I'm fighting for my family, and I'm fighting for my community. You know, we have to look at the impact of deforestation. You know, 20 years ago, we were all crying, save the rainforest, sending millions of dollars down to Brazil, you know, because that was supposed to repair our ozone layer. Well, why aren't we crying, you know, save the Michigan woods? Oh, gosh, I didn't even get to say what I wanted to say. So anyways, I'm China strong with you, Linda, but I think we need to be St. Clair County strong. I encourage this board to issue a moratorium. There are counties all over the U.S. that are doing that right now because—
You can wrap it up.
Yes, because they are awake now. They are awake to what's going on. Thank you.
Jim Weir?
Good evening. I've been here before. This will be my fourth time. The topic is the same, but you have to look at it from different directions too. One of the things that's not being spoke of is who's going to make the money? Because when all is said and done, that's what everything revolves around. And considering that Michigan, when you look at its sunlight days, out of the 52 states, it's number 25. So we don't have a lot of sunlight to begin with. As a point of fact, and it's all on the internet, so you can check it yourself, we have 172 daylight hours, or daylight, full daylight, according to standards set by the people that keep track of this stuff. But the problem is, what they consider a full day of sunlight can also consist of 70% cloud pattern. So it's a stretched imagination that this concept is one in which there's benefit that equals the amount of negative built into the program. But we still need to go back to who's benefiting. The efficiency of solar panels is next to squat. As a builder, I wouldn't put power panels on a house. If you want to benefit from solar, do it by passive solar, like that window. Let the sun come in your window, heat that floor, and benefit it for free. You don't have to connect it to a grid. You don't have to get somebody else's permission. You just think about what you can do with what you have. And we don't do that. And instead, we have people that say, well, here's an area where we can exploit. And we've got a governor that just goes nuts exploiting this state and the citizens of it. So when you look at what's going on, don't just look at the fact that they want X number of acres and supposedly it's going to take X number of wires, and X number of this, and X number of that. Look at who's going to get the money. And when all is said and done, you're going to end up paying for it from your bill, your DTE bill, and it's going to prove to you that solar is not the way to go. Good night.
Angie Dufresne.
Good evening. Angie Dufresne, Fort Gratiot resident. There's been a few comments, and I think it's hard for us to not, get angry and talk about the Fort Gratiot board being, the committee that actually made this decision. But it's really important to mention that it was just 4 members of our board that made this decision. We have 3 really good members on our board, 2 of which are in the audience tonight because they are interested in hearing what Dr. Nevin has to say. I'd also like to thank Dr. Nevin for looking into things. I am actually here right now to speak about new business, item 7G, Metropolitan Planning Commission appointment. It has come to my attention that Georgia Baldwin would like to be appointed to this position. I have grave concerns with that. I pulled a Freedom of Information Act request against Fort Gratiot Township to find out exactly how much money Georgia has made being our planning coordinator out there. A few weeks ago, I came here and I questioned why she has been quiet about this project for a year, why she hasn't been there for our community. What I found is the reason why she hasn't been is because she's been tied right up in this from the beginning. In 2018-19, she was a supervisor at Fort Gratiot Township. She was also on the EDA. The EDA courted people around this county for good places to put a solar field like this. Then she moved on to the St. Clair County Commissioners Board. Well, she was also on the Metropolitan Planning Commission. She was on the Metropolitan Planning Commission as well as being a planning consultant at Fort Gratiot Township when the ordinance was created, the solar ordinance, that was encouraged by the developer. So I have a real big concern with her being appointed to the Metropolitan Planning Commission. I do believe this board has a conflict of interest policy. I do think that maybe you need to look into that because one individual should not be in so many different pockets of our community pulling the strings. So, thank you very much.
Robert Felix.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Robert Felix, St. Clair County Commissioner-elect for the 5th District. I want to cover 2 things tonight. The first, I understand there is an appointment open for, or being considered for the Metropolitan Planning Commission. I would ask this board, out of respect for the new board who will need to work with these people, to put this aside, table it, or take it off the agenda for tonight. Any decisions made tonight, I will vigorously attempt to overturn on the new board. Several of the grounds have already been stated. I would pursue that. Second thing I want to talk to you about is the solar. I'm a retired engineer and I've covered the technical aspects. You've heard the people in the audience talk about this. This has gone on and on for several weeks. Many of them it's gone on for over a year. It's going to continue. So I propose that this board, and I recognize several members are already working actively on this, and that is appreciated. I propose this board get serious. I understand that Dr. Nevin is approaching this from a health aspect. Let's use some common sense. This is affecting mental health. It's not even installed yet, and you hear the anguish in the voices. Now, you can't save everybody in the community, hey, there's new development, but this is different. You have widespread industrial noise throughout a community. In my work as an engineer, I've often seen studies and observed myself how efficiency of employees is reduced, absenteeism brought up by noise levels of this nature and quieter. OSHA talks about 85 decibels, ear protection. They're concerned with 8-hour waiting and ear damage. You're talking about psychological effects, and we all know stress can lead to physical health. Now, I just finished commissioner school, 5 days and an in-person class, and I thank the county for sending me. I learned several things in that class, and on January 2nd, I will take an oath of office. If that oath does not include defend and protect citizens of our county, then I'm in the wrong place, because I think the job of commissioners is to protect and defend the vulnerable citizens of our community. There is no one more vulnerable than people that are being taken advantage by a bad state law that's being applied to a rural area. There are 66 residences are going to be condemned to a solar jail, and I think that is wrong. So I urge this board to look at every available means. I urge them to consider carefully Dr. Nevin's word, and I also urge our own St. Clair County Health Department to get behind this effort, recognize there is a mental health and a physical health aspect to this that the State Act 233 does not address. And if it's not in that bill, that leaves it open for others to address. The others are us. And on January 2nd, I intend to promote that to full extent possible.
He didn't start the clock. Your time's up.
Okay. I think they've had enough of me. Thank you.
That's funny. Sean Treadaway.
Sean Treadaway, St. Clair Township. With respect to, I believe it was 7G, the appointment of the Metropolitan Planning Commission vacancy, with our current Metropolitan Planning Commission already made up of a who's who of the EDA, Blue Meets Green, Chamber of Commerce, pretty much, defined cronyism with those members. I strongly encourage you to, I'll echo Bob and everyone else, table it tonight. Look, you've got maybe 100 citizens here that may want that position. Advertise it a little bit more, but I don't believe we need any more cronyism. I believe it's time to bring some new minds into the Planning Commission, and thank you.
Chris Bartow.
I am Chris Bartow. I'm a resident of St. Clair County. I am against the appointment of Georgia Baldwin to the Metropolitan Planning Commission. I'm also severely against living my golden years out in an industrial solar facility. Thank you.
Jill Bartow.
Hi, I'm Jill Bartow. I am a NIMBY from St. Clair County in Clyde Township. I'm not one of the official 66 that got the horrible letter, but we are dangerously close, right down the road from the Fort Gratiot monstrosity. We purchased our home a couple years ago without any knowledge of this industrial facility coming in all over the place. Everybody says, the Ranger Power, whatever, that this won't affect our property values, none of that. We would never have even looked at this property and beautiful home for our retirement had we known this was coming. And you need to consider this for St. Clair County. Nobody's gonna wanna live around this stuff. This goes in, it's gonna squeeze out every bit of development that you might have that's legit. The only green thing about the green Renewable green energy is the money. And with that, along the same lines, I am against the appointment of Georgia Baldwin to the Metropolitan Planning Commission. Respectfully, thank you.
Debbie Carbone? I did, yes, sorry. Liz Carbone, sorry, I was taking a shortcut.
I'm Debbie Lips Carbone of Casco, and I just want to raise concern over the solar farm being proposed for next to Marine City Airport. I hung out at Marine City Airport all my childhood. I worked at Nancy Technologies. I know who owns the property now, and should have known it was coming when they bought the property. I know if Bill Manter was still alive today, he would not have sold out to a solar farm. I hear all the negatives about the solar farm. I want to hear some positive. What is the positive? Is it the money they're going to make from the lease? I sit and think about, you know, they wanted to take 26 mile, make it 4 lanes, what it was going to do to our environment. Now we have stone crushing over there. I have a hobby farm. There's animals in the area, the videos I've seen and the noise that these solar farms create, what's going on with the deer, the horses, the cows. Are they also mind-boggled over the whole situation? And I just hope that somehow we can stop the solar farm, put them in Arizona where there's more sunlight. We just don't need it in our community.
Joseph Hayes?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for your time tonight. I've been a resident of St. Clair County in Port Huron for almost 20 years now after moving to the area to work for the Times Herald. And, you know, it's amazing. I've seen the frustration, but at the same time, I've seen the community and the unity that we have. And, you know, my wife and I decided to move from the Detroit area to move to Port Huron, and we've been out here, like I said, 2 decades now. And so I'm excited to see all the good, positive things that's coming to our community. And just like issues with right now with the solar farm, those are things that we can work through. So I'm excited to submit my name for the Health Advisory Board coming up next year. And I just look for ways to continue to give back to our area. Thank you.
Okay. Darren Weiner?
Good evening. My name is Darren Weiner. I own a farm directly next to the 2 properties that were leased out by the Marine City Airport on Marine City Highway. I bought this property 3 years ago, sold everything that I had, moved my family out there. I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into this property over the last 3 years. I'm intending to live my life there. It's my home. I own a farm with horses. I've got over 20 horses and exotic animals, and I'm bringing in a bunch more animals. We do things with kids. We've been doing pony rides. You drive down Marine City Highway, you'll see we set up a tent on the weekends. We do things with kids. All this is in jeopardy. I mean, I had no idea this was even happening until 2 days ago, so I'm a little bit ill-prepared. I'm frustrated, I'm angry, because my damn neighbor's leasing the property out. They didn't come to me to ask me if I wanted to lease it out, but they're leasing it to the solar companies. And I would guarantee there isn't one of you that would want this in your backyard if you spent your life savings on this beautiful farm, and you're doing everything you can to make it beautiful. Do you want these solar panels in your backyard? It's in my backyard. It's in my backyard. It isn't down the road. Is my backyard. I bought it because it was away from all that. It's beautiful, wild, natural area. I love that area. And now I don't know what I'm going to do. I know I am filing lawsuits. I will be filing lawsuits. Lots of them. That's what I do, and that's what I'm going to do, and I intend to do. I'm frustrated. I'm angry. I want to know who's making these calls. I want to know where the money is. What's, you know, because it makes zero sense. I mean, we're in a state, like a gentleman earlier said, that gets 50% of our days are cloudy. Michigan isn't a solar state. I mean, use your head. It's stupid. It's stupid. You got plenty of country out west where nobody lives. Michigan is parcels. We're all 5, 10, 20, 50-acre parcels. We don't have acreage for solar farms in Fort Gratiot or in Ira Township or Casco. Or I mean, this is stupid. I'm so angry. I'm just so angry. I'm not going to have it. I will fight it tooth and nail. I just found out about it a couple days ago. But I intend to be highly invested, and I'm motivated. I'm angry, and I really hope that you take it seriously and understand that it's in my backyard, and all my animals and my kids and everything else. Thank you.
Greg Abbey? Greg Abbey? I don't talk very loud.
Next one.
Good evening, Greg Abbey, Cottreville Township Supervisor. I feel all your pain. November 21st, 2024, 8 a.m., a lease came across my desk for the solar. Not knowing much about it, I've started investigating. Why weren't we fighting this since November 2023? PA 233, we should have joined that fight immediately. They are taking away the rights of the townships to regulate what goes on in their own community. I will fight this tooth and nail. It's not just the large-scale solar farms that we need to worry about. It's the 49 megawatt nameplates and less. What we're looking at is a section of Cottreville Township from Starville to Palms, Arnold to Marine City Highway that is actively being solicited for leases heavy. I gave my planning commission an assignment last night to do as much research as they can so that we can create an ordinance where we can regulate the smaller scale solar farms. What makes me angry is why didn't we join the fight with the 70 plus townships and the multiple counties against PA 233? I urge you to join the communities and help us fight this. It is a problem. It's a health issue. My residents are screaming about this. I will be holding a town hall with some experts. I'm trying to get experts from West Virginia, New Mexico, Kansas, Nebraska, and Wyoming. They have all fought these successfully. Join me. I'm going to ask you guys to join us as a county and stand with every community in your county. Thank you.
Vanessa Davis?
Vanessa Davis, 139 Murphy Drive, St. Clair Township. I just saw last board meeting, and my heart goes out to you guys. I am so sorry. As someone dealing with an environmental issue in my community that's not been taken or listened to, or we've been a throwaway community. And the injustice of this without the proper environmental guidance. Where's the health studies? Where's the community impacts? What's the long-term effect? We have a young child in here tonight. What will be the effect for these children that live in these areas, let alone the animals, which are highly sensitive, human beings? Why was this just so throwing down everybody's face is what I'd like to know. Where's the accountability When will somebody stand up and say, hold the part, we're not gonna prostitute what we have. We're gonna take a minute, and we're gonna do the due diligence, what we need to do for not only us, but our generations and generations. What's the environmental impact? Is the land gonna be any good if this is farmland, isn't it? Some of the area? What's gonna be the environmental impact? We can't, what about the food that we need to eat right now? There's so many other resources and things that you could do instead of put these highly hazardous, long-term effects. Would you want this? When you go home tonight, I ask each and every one of you to look in the mirror, and if you have children and grandchildren, what would you say to them if they were them sitting here in that board? What is going to be the consequence of this long-term effect? We don't know, and that's the problem. We don't know. And again, my heart goes out to each and every one of you affected, and I am so sorry. Thank you.
Kevin Glass?
Board, my name's Kevin Glass. I'm the current chairman of the Planning Commission, Wells Township, member of the ZBA. And I will tell you what, lately I've been coming to all the meetings at this level. And what concerns me the most is when we leave our hearings or meetings, if you're human, you listen to people and you're supposed to just listen, take notes, but you can't do that all the time. You have to let people know how you really feel. So the last meeting I was here, we brought up the devastation of solar. We feel for everybody in Fort Gratiot, of course, but this has been going on for 2 years for us. We fought it, established ordinances to protect us, and hopefully other people piggyback on that. But in the last meeting, it was brought up, would you support an appeal? Corporate counsel said, and we have the audio, we don't need to do this right now, we can wait. You can't wait. This is so important as a devastation, changing the lives of hundreds of thousands of your residents and your communities. This can't wait. You have to at least, after this meeting, let us know what your position is. I was very happy to see that Chairman Rushing brought up an additional point. We're going to hear from Dr. Nevin and how the physical aspects of solar and the chemicals and what they can do to our loved ones. But it goes farther than that. We need to really know as commission members, as you sit there as a legislative body, to let us know your feelings. You have to direct us and do the right thing. Don't be part of the problem, be part of the solution. Thank you.
Dan Turk?
Commissioners, thank you for allowing me to speak today. I often see pretty familiar faces. My supervisor from China Township, Linda Schweihofer. I am a board trustee for the Charter Township of China. Dr. Nevin, who I spoke to lengthily by phone but have not met formally. Greg Abbey, supervisor of Crotchville Township, and of course Liz Masters, great support that over there in Wales Township. $400,000 a year, guys. Our tax dollars were given, this board gave to the EDA. And those tax dollars, look at their faces. That money is used to fight them people. Dan Casey went around and targeted all our townships. There's a level of responsibility by this board. You gave that money to the EDA, this falls on your shoulders. And I'm gonna cut this short. As far as a solar farm, it's an owner of a farm right now. I can't say that electricity is an agricultural product. These are industrial facilities, and they don't belong in our backyards. Thank you, I yield back.
Okay. Oh, yes.
Just because we have two board members and other board members, as a previous township supervisor, and you can call, anyone here can call me after the meeting, because you have two from the Fort Gratiot board, What I used to do as township supervisor in Riley, when I was there, I'd have a monthly meeting for the residents to come meet the supervisor and have a coffee break to talk about whatever they want. They can have, the supervisor can, or any trustee can have a meeting with the residents as long as you do not have a quorum. And the township can do that. So I would suggest that you contact them. If you cannot get that set up, I will gladly make a phone call myself.
Yes.
So normally we don't speak because you get 3 minutes and you're able to just address the board and it doesn't turn into a back and forth. And there's a part of that process that it's because this is a business meeting, and there's a part of that process that really isn't fair because we're not able to have any kind of conversation. So just real quickly, just 3 things. I'm happy to meet with anybody. My telephone number and my home address have been on the county's website, but my telephone number is 810-887-9853. And I would answer every single question that was posed to me tonight at any time. I will come to your home, you can call me, and we'll work it out and we'll talk about it. There's nothing that's off the table. There's no question that's inappropriate. I think to Mr. Felitz's point, if this board wants to table that decision, I've been the liaison from this board to Metropolitan Planning since the last 2 or 3 years. So as I was getting off the board, there was still this vacancy. If the next board wants to handle it, the next board can handle it. I'm okay with that too. So if that's what this board decides tonight, that's fine. If you want to let the next board handle that. And then the only other thing, I have never, ever, ever taken any money for any of these projects. And I don't know where that's coming from. I understand the frustration. I understand what everyone is feeling. And I've been part of this. The timelines, I think I'd really like to talk about, but there was never any money. So I think because that's been spoken a couple of times, I just wanted to address that part, but I've never taken any funds from Portside Solar or Ranger Power to that end. So, thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm on updates. Is there any updates? No. Any conceptual? No. No old business. Moving on to new business. Item 7A, approving the airport lease assignment, amendment, and consent of owner lot T4 Lennox Oil LLC.
Motion to send it to full board.
Support. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 7B for Parks and Recreation additional vehicle request.
Make a motion, send to full board.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, Parks and Recreation proposed e-bike rules.
I'll make a motion to send that to full board. Support.
Any discussion?
A little bit.
Point like,
Okay.
go ahead, Dave.
I got numerous items. I don't know if there's a Park and Rec member here. If you would,
Dennis is in the back.
You can answer my questions then, thanks. I didn't see you, Dennis. Has there been a single incident in our parks involving an e-bike?
Yes.
Has it been wrecked or something?
Yeah, we had citizens that actually came to us with concerns. They actually sent out letters to several commissioners about the concerns. So, yeah, there has been a few incidents.
Well, I understand an incident. It might be that somebody just doesn't want electric bikes. Has there actually been crashes or something that has happened that caused injury?
Not that I'm aware of.
So just somebody complaining about e-bikes?
Concerns.
You're going to potentially follow the state guidelines. How are you going to force it?
Well, that's with posted rules. So just like we do with any of our other parks, we have posted rules that basically are, that we can apply the law.
Okay, so you won't have a sheriff or a deputy sheriff on, so you can take your
No.
best you can, which is, I agree. You
Right.
do the best you can with the same way you do now.
Correct.
Is there any penalties if you catch somebody that violates this? Is there a 1, 2, 3? Do you have something set in place to where if they
Right.
violate, they'll be subjected, you're not allowed on our
Basically,
parks?
Yes, basically what we do is when people do not follow our rules, they are asked to leave the parks. If they are given several opportunities to leave, if they don't follow our rules, then we can actually ask for trespassing.
The reason I'm asking these questions because I believe if you don't have an incident, similar to what one of our residents in Riley did, we have 2 35-mile-an-hour speed limit signs close to Riley Center. They wanted those expanded out. And if you don't have an accident, what's potentially going to happen, those 35 miles are going to be gone, it's going to go 55 miles an hour. So that's why I was asking if you actually have an incident. I'm worried about government taking control. And I see,
Understandable. Where the situation has come in effect is where we've had several users on our trail, Bottoms to Avoca Trail, 12.5 miles, multi-use trail. So you have equestrian riders on that trail, you have walkers, bikers, and everybody of the sort. So with that, different users, different concerns. So the e-bikes, they go 28 miles an hour. You have class 1, class 2, and class 3. Class 3 is one that goes almost as fast as a moped. So that's the concern that citizens brought to us. We're following what's going on across the state. This is happening in our park systems across the state.
well, this is going to go to the full board. Potentially, I'm going to do my own some more research and find out if I need to support this. But if we can enforce it and then possibly in 6 months, you can give us a report on what this actually happens, because I think you do a great job and the Park and Rec do a great job. So I'd like to see where we stand in 6 months.
I'd be happy to do that.
Steve?
I was actually going to mention something that might answer Dave's question. I had two people in my district, District 1 with the Avoca Trail, and one fella had family members that were children almost run over by somebody on one of these Class 3 e-bikes that are doing 40 miles an hour. So there are abuses that are occurring, and I don't think we need to wait till somebody gets killed to have an ordinance. I think you need to look at that like they did with Mackinac Island and St. Ignace. The same thing. You have people recreating, and next thing you know, you've got these powerful bikes, and they're also considered to be, ADA compliant assisted vehicles. So you got to be careful how you regulate as well if somebody has a need. But the provision in our packet clearly indicates some of the grounds for that. And Dennis, I sit on the board for Parks and Rec, and I don't recall a lot of the discussion on that, but I know we asked you to look at it. So does this kind of track with what the state of Michigan does in state parks? Did we kind of rip off their statute, or we did make our own?
No,
okay.
This is all following basically legislation that went through in the state.
And then we had that discussion at the Parks and Rec Commission. You've got people speeding down the Bottoms of Avoca Trail, and there's nobody around. Well, how are you going to police that? Are we going to have patrolmen out there and so forth? But you do have citizens with cell phones and cameras, and when you get rude people that affect other people's rights to enjoy those properties, there's ways to determine some of that, and warnings and so forth. So I was actually part of what initiated that, because I knew what was happening in St. Ignace and some of the state parks, and I had at least two people in my district. Was that one of the people that you sent the letter out on?
Yes.
That was. I referred him to you and said,
Yep.
and hooked you up, and then you took care of that with him.
Yep.
So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Dennis. Good with Dennis?
Good to go.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item D, the contract amendment for Fishback Engineering Services and Parks.
Make motion to send to full board.
Support. Thank you. Any discussion?
just a little. I
Okay.
got my questions answered prior to. This is $17,000, $900 above and beyond the previous, so the total now for Fishback for this project is $79,100.
Question?
Just a statement. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 7E, the landfill, the PFAS treatment equipment procurement and installation.
Move to full board.
Support. Thank you. Any discussion?
Are we going to have anything? I see Matt's in the back room. Matt, you think see a need to update the community on any of the PFAS things that we're doing at the landfill? Would you want to make a couple comments about that? Because I'm quite familiar with it, but this treatment equipment and what we're trying to do to get ahead of some of the PFAS issues at the landfill. If you could just make a few brief comments, since we have so many people here from the community.
Absolutely. As I'm sure all the board is aware, the public may or may not be aware, the landfill leachate that we pull out of the landfill for treatment, ultimately from the Port Huron wastewater treatment plant, our particular leachate in that wastewater stream has a high level of PFAS contamination. That's simply because there's PFAS in the waste in the landfill, and when the water leaches down through that waste, it picks up a certain amount of all sorts of stuff. We have been monitoring and trending our PFAS levels in that wastewater for over 5 years now. We
general downward trend. But we also have a industrial pretreatment permit, or industrial pretreatment program permit with Port Huron wastewater treatment plant. They recently, meaning last year, told us they were going to amend or modify our treatment permit to include a ceiling for one particular PFAS compound, it's PFOS, perfluorooctane sulfonic acid. We have historically been under that level just by not doing any treatment for PFAS to date. However, they required, and we agreed, that we do need to do proactive treatment to ensure that we are well below that level for that compound. So we have put out an RFP for PFAS treatment process equipment to be installed at the landfill so that we can treat not only that particular compound, but a multitude of other PFAS compounds down to a lower level so that we can ensure we meet our effluent concentrations that are being required by Port Huron wastewater treatment.
If you can confirm this for me, Matt, this is not something that's been ordered to be done. This is something we've done voluntarily, correct?
Well, actually, Port Huron wastewater treatment plant did ask, as part of, they directed that we install
Right.
some.
The federal regulations on those types of compounds are becoming more stringent.
Yes, they are.
Quite more stringent. And we're reacting to that, but we're doing this on our own volition to basically for the health and safety of the residents of our community.
And I will add that, and I can't, be careful not to speak for the wastewater treatment plant, but they have effluent levels of these same compounds that they can discharge to the river. So they have been, from what I understand, meeting those effluent levels, but they see the writing on the wall, I think, in the future that as time goes on, we're only going to get more and more restrictive requirements on PFAS compounds in particular, and perhaps other compounds in the future.
Thank you, Matt.
Good. Anything else for Matt? Thanks, Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7F is Dr. Remington on public health risk for industrial solar plants and data centers. Thank you, Dr. Remington.
So thank you, Commissioners. Well, thanks to your recent actions, I'm very pleased to stand here this evening as your county medical director. I do appreciate your recent vote of support following my decision to remain in this position for the foreseeable future. Your actions, I think, illustrate the importance of elected county control of our local health departments, rather than these services being overseen by mostly unaccountable and unelected bureaucrats in Lansing. And because all public health is fundamentally local, because our actions must reflect the values and priorities of the communities we serve, in my opinion, it is critical that local health departments remain responsive to local residents and their needs. My position and that of our health officer are not elected positions, but they probably should be. Because as we've seen in recent years, the powers afforded to us by the Public Health Code are extraordinary and arguably exceed those of any other elected county positions, including even sheriff and prosecutor. Our sheriff may have the right to arrest you on probable cause and lock you up for a few days, subject to due process. And our prosecutor has the right to try to keep you locked up a little longer if they can make their case to the judge and jury beyond a reasonable doubt. But in public health, at least according to Lansing, we have the power to lock you up indefinitely, as well as to close your businesses, your churches, your schools, to order you to wear masks, and to stand 6 feet apart, and to do any number of now clearly and obviously unreasonable things based solely on supposed expert opinion, and without requiring clear evidence or even a defensible rationale. This authority is defended by bureaucrats in Lansing to this day. So my role as medical director in this process is to provide the expert opinion when required or requested. By regulation, I am to advise the health officer on matters related to medical specialty judgments and to provide direction to the county in the formulation of medical public health policy and program operation. Because my medical specialties are in public health and occupational medicine, my area of advisory authority encompasses the entire range of public health activities I will be discussing. Now, I can assure you, were I in this role a few years ago, I would not have recommended any of the actions just described. But I do believe the Public Health Code requires and empowers us to take occasionally extraordinary actions in response to very clear health threats, including those posed by negative externalities from potentially harmful industrial processes, including when these affect our particularly vulnerable population groups, and particularly when no other state agency is taking appropriate action. So in my advisory role, I'd like to expand briefly on my recent memorandum concerning the health impacts of Public Act 233 and the options available to us to mitigate the impacts of projects certified under this act. And I'm speaking in this context specifically to industrial solar and battery plants of at least 50 megawatts nameplate capacity, the control over siting for which has now been completely removed from local elected bodies by the Act. And I should note that my memorandum does not specifically address all data centers, but in as much as some planned data centers may include battery plants of this size or larger, these would become subject to the provisions of this Act, and hence the reasoning outlined in my memorandum. So as I described in my memorandum, in my opinion, these larger solar and battery facilities can pose an unreasonable threat to the public's health. This should not be controversial, as this is even specifically acknowledged in the Act itself. The Act formally requires that operators of these proposed facilities submit evidence to the Commission on their public health effects, and provides that no facility shall be approved which poses a, quote, unreasonable threat to public health. Just one of the criteria which must be considered by the Commission in this regard includes whether the facility will keep noise below maximum acceptable levels as defined in the Act. So the legislation clearly acknowledges that if these and certain other standards are not met, these facilities may pose an unreasonable threat to public health. For example, under the Act, a solar facility producing constant inverter noise at an average sound level of 60 decibels, measured at a certain location, would presumably be deemed to pose an unreasonable threat to public health, and the facility would presumably not be approved. So at issue then is the appropriateness of the limits specified in Act 233 and whether local public health departments retain their statutory ability to independently regulate public health threats associated with these, including by providing for limits more stringent than those in the legislation. The need to do so, I think, is made obvious by recent events in Fort Gratiot Township, which make clear the inadequacy of the public health protections specified in Act 233. For example, although Act 233 simply declares arbitrarily that a sound level of 55 decibels does not present a, quote, unreasonable threat to public health, a sound level this loud was clearly deemed unreasonable by both the proposed operator and Fort Gratiot Township, who agreed in the settlement proposal to limit sound levels to only 45 decibels. Now, why would this be if the sound levels specified by Act 233 are adequate to protect the public's health? Clearly, they are not. And if the township, clearly under some duress through their loss of local control over siting of this proposed facility, was compelled to accept what is presumably a compromise level of 45 decibels, is it not possible that absent this duress and absent their loss of control over siting, they would have demanded a lower sound level more consistent with protecting the public's health? The matter of this unacceptable noise alone is reason enough for us to take local public health action. And if this is not a matter that calls for local public health action, I do not know what our powers are for. As I outlined in my memorandum, I believe it was not only the specific intent of the legislature in passing Act 233 to preserve our powers to act in this instance, but that we are obligated to do so as part of our statutory requirement to diligently endeavor to prevent and control health problems among our populations, and especially among our particularly vulnerable population groups. The public health agencies in Lansing, including EGLE and MDHHS, which are normally our strong partners, have unfortunately utterly failed in this regard to properly safeguard the interests of our vulnerable rural residents in proximity to these proposed facilities. The silence of these agencies on these issues is deafening and stands in stark contrast to the advocacy they have shown when defending the public health of other populations, such as urban or inner city residents in proximity to comparable industrial processes. Or even recently here, when these agencies appropriately advocated for control of landfill odors and acknowledged the public health threat that these pose. Given these circumstances, it is my opinion that it is not just appropriate, but legally necessary for our health department to step in and implement measures that the state has neglected. Following solicitation of public comment at one or more upcoming meetings of the Advisory Board of Health in the new year, I intend to submit formal recommendations in this regard to our health officer. These will outline the broad public health rationale for proposed regulations, which will require that following certification by the Commission, that operators separately address the following, as just some examples, prior to receiving health department approval for their facilities. Number one, ensuring acceptable sound levels, not only during operation, but also during their construction and inevitable decommissioning. Number two, ensuring that beyond the effects of noise, the physical and mental health of county residents are otherwise protected, including from associated economic and nuisance effects, in a manner comparable to the concern shown for similar effects from landfill odors. As we have seen, while these do not cause disease or physical harm in a conventional sense, these odors nonetheless clearly constituted an unreasonable public health threat. Number three, providing a credible plan for complete site decommissioning and decontamination, taking into account the shortened economic lifespan of these facilities in light of their dependence on now clearly unsustainable tax credits and subsidies. Also, the non-trivial risk of destructive weather events and the precise composition and potential toxicity of the facility's paneling and battery materials as potential sources of contamination. I will also be recommending that in addition to these regulations, that we also draft health orders to be used to limit the imminent harm that construction and operation of these facilities may pose in the event that any of these regulations may be challenged on legal grounds, notwithstanding our clear authority in this area. But make no mistake, Act 233 acknowledges that these proposed facilities can pose an unreasonable threat to public health and clearly places the onus on the proposed operator to provide evidence in support of this. It is not our responsibility to prove that these facilities are harmful. It is the operator's responsibility, consistent with the law, to demonstrate that these do not pose an unreasonable threat to the public's health. The demonstration of this cannot be based solely on the opinion of regulators in Lansing or the arbitrary and clearly inadequate provisions in Act 233, but must be based on a separate objective assessment that considers the needs of our local population. If we cannot demand this, then what is the purpose of local public health? What is the county paying my salary for? What is the county paying our health officer's salary for? We must demand that our residents' autonomy and control over local public health matters be maintained, and that these not be sacrificed on an altar of competing state priorities. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Nevin. Does anybody have any questions for?
Just a statement like I requested when I've been going to so many of these meetings, and I did request our medical director and our health department to address this, and it was put on our agenda. He got right on it, and I believe we're heading in the right direction. So I hope that we do this as a county and address this and have come up with something formal very quickly.
Go ahead, Steve.
I've gotten to know Dr. Nevin essentially through some of the landfill issues we had, and he was most helpful in giving opinions, reference the hydrogen sulfide issues and so forth and out there. And I did appreciate that. So I've come to know Dr. Nevin, and I do appreciate his medical judgment. Your memorandum of November 25th cited probably 90% of what was in there was public health code references. And I know you're not a lawyer, but I am. So I know we've had a lot of discussions about that. And I've reviewed thoroughly your 6 or 7 page memorandum. And the one question I had was, the statute lays out that, our public health advisory board, our medical doctor, which is you, and our health officer, which is Liz King, in my opinion or impression of the statute, and even with the county commission as the local governing entity, we're supposed to kind of collaborate and partner in how we address this. Would that be a fair assessment in how you view the public health code, doctor?
Yes, I believe that's accurate. So specifically with reference to any regulations that the health department may adopt after proper consultation, in order for those to take legal effect, they would need to be approved by the board.
So the regulations are adopted after public hearing and comment. My understanding is our health officer would be the one to formally adopt that and then send it to the full board for approval. Is that consistent with your understanding?
Yes, that's right. And I do outline the pertinent section of the MCL on page 6 of mine.
Yeah, I do this to edify the public here as well. So these public hearings and this examination of the issue will be done by the professionals in this team, our health director, our health officer, advisory board of health, and the county commission. That's how we properly address this, correct?
Yes.
And I guess the last thing I'll ask you on is this regulations that you envision appears to me that you're indicating you would think these are necessary and appropriate to safeguard public health. Would that be correct?
Yes, they are.
And then these are things from some of the state law on how you uphold regulations of this type. The second matter is the regulation is not more restrictive than necessary to address the threat to public health. So you're not saying you just ban some operation completely, but to look specifically at the public health aspect and then take whatever reasonable appropriate steps there are with respect to protecting public health. Is that?
Yes, that's correct. And I do believe what is being proposed is fully consistent with the intent of the legislature in passing Act 233.
Well, Act 233 raises the issue of preemption because it does preempt specifically, quote, local ordinances. And I do see the public health code as a separate body of statutory authority from Act 233. So in that regard, I think the public health code stands on its own. That's my position as far as I've gotten with my research and so forth now. But to me, it should stand on its own. You need to do your job, along with our health officer, advisory board of health, and this board, to look into this and then pass any regulations we think are required. And then the last thing is that it talks about regulations being at least as stringent as state standards. So right now, there are no state standards for noise as such, are there? There's no state noise ordinance, no state noise pollution or nuisance level. Do you see anything along those lines?
Well, so in that respect, the maximum acceptable noise level for these facilities of 55 decibels, as outlined in Act 233, is clearly unacceptable, as has been demonstrated by the agreement reached between the operator and Fort Gratiot Township of 45 decibels. So I believe it is consistent with the intent of the legislature in passing Act 233 that we are empowered to adopt local health regulations which place more stringent noise restrictions on these facilities than is listed in Act 233.
And see, in looking at that, looking at Act 233 and the decibel rating in 233, that's kind of in a vacuum, so to speak, because it doesn't reference where it's at. Is it in the far away north corner of some open area, or is it downtown someplace? So to me, it's poorly proposed as legislation because it just barfs out a number and says that's a good number. So I don't like that as well. So I'm glad that you were able to look at this, and I'm glad you had the courage to address this in a professional manner from a medical standpoint. I hope the Advisory Board of Health and our health officer can collaborate with you, and then this board can take the appropriate action after you guys have given it a thorough review. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, yeah. So, Dr. Nevin, it's good to see you tonight. Being the commissioner that is at the Board of Health Advisory meetings, we'd love to see you there. We have been working on this for several months as we've heard from the communities that they don't want it and how can we help, and really some great concerns have been brought forward, and having you at those meetings would be really important, especially as we move forward in this collaborative relationship, to get your feedback so that we have also some direction from you, not just the community and our peers up here, but to get that immediate feedback from you. So I do look forward to seeing you at future meetings and collaborating with you. I did have a couple of questions. Regarding the memo, I appreciate your interpretation of Act 233. When you bring forward this report that you had mentioned in the new year, there was no mention in your memo about peer evaluated studies. There was no reference to studies that are reputable studies that have been done, something that you would support in that memo. So do you have those for at least the Board of Health to begin to read as well? Because you can imagine, I mean, you know this is a big issue, and we're going to need some time to read through those studies. So if you have those, that would be great to share with the Health Advisory Board so that they can fulfill their duties as assigned by this commission. You also mentioned in your memo a vulnerable community, and I appreciate the vague language of that, but could you narrow that down? What does that mean to you? I know what that means to me as someone who works in the healthcare field or an adjacent field, but what does that mean to you? How do you define it as it relates to this?
Right, thank you for those questions, and I do look forward to being at future meetings, including the one coming up in a couple of weeks, where I hope to take further public comments on this topic. So the Public Health Code does not specify specific rationale for defining what a particularly vulnerable population group is, but I think reasonably speaking, if there is a population group that is completely and utterly abandoned by state regulators, and who is essentially sacrificed in pursuit of state objectives, and they have no one else on their side, that would reasonably, by any definition, constitute a particularly vulnerable population group. And I think the residents who will be affected by these facilities are more than capable of advocating for that label on their own behalf.
Okay. Well, I do thank you for answering my questions. Certainly, I look forward to collaborating with you and having these conversations with you in person and as we move forward in the future.
One last thing for you. What is addressed by many of the residents tonight, and of course you can do that on each individual case that comes toward you, but the mental health issue, that's above and beyond also the noise levels, because the people that are going to be living next to these, potentially the toxic waste that could leak into our Great Lakes, this is weighing on a lot of people's mind. You had the farmer in here, very passionate, a lot of people here are passionate, on 26 Mile Road, I believe, Ira Township, I believe he's from there. But he has a farm there, and with all the things that can potentially happen to the neighbors, to have a large property owner, and I bring this up in past meetings, I have 160 acres, Detroit Edison addressed me, see if they could have me sign a lease for potential solar in the future. I would never do that to my neighbors. Things are more valuable than life. But as you go forward, I want you to, you're already doing, I think you do a great job. So as you address the Health Advisory Board, some mental health issues there, because that's going to be very hard for a solar place or data center or something to say, how is it not affecting people's mental health? If they have to look at this, even if this noise was zero, just to have that next to their property, that's going to affect people's lives.
Any further questions?
Anybody else for Dr. Nevin? I don't think we do the audience though. Sorry. What's that?
Do we need a motion to accept his report, or is it just finding address?
I think it'll come in under accept and file. Just a discussion item.
Item 7G for the Metropolitan Planning Commission appointment.
I'll make this my position anyways. We could have a motion to send it to full board. I'd like a motion to table this until next month. I can't hear you.
Sorry, any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to table that. Item 7H, landfill matters, Asphalt Trucks Incorporated, for the contract amendment.
Make a motion to send to the full board.
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. For item 8, the Smith Creek landfill, August volume, and let's do B.
Make a motion to receive and file 8A and 8B.
Support. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Is there any other environmental public work matters? For information only, 10A, the monthly Parks and Recs financial documents. Can we have a motion to receive?
Motion to receive and file.
Support. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion to receive and file packets, please.
So moved.
Support. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Support. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion, or meeting adjourned.
Want to call the Ways and Means Committee to order. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Samasco?
Present.
Commissioner Baldwin?
Here.
Commissioner Beeden?
Present.
Commissioner Bohm? Commissioner Torello?
Here.
Commissioner Vandenbosch?
Here.
Commissioner Rushing?
Here. Item 2, can I have a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. I do not have any citizens wishing to be heard. Do we have any updates? Any
Bless you.
conceptual initiatives? We have no old business. We'll move to 7A, contract approval, AEW Animal Control relocation.
Make a motion,
Sorry, go ahead.
go ahead.
You go. I'll support you.
Make a motion to move to full board.
Support.
Any discussion?
You know, I looked at this one, and I know there's a motion for discussion, move to full board. This contract, just for the architectural work, is a couple $100,000. You know, I don't think it's a good time to pursue, perhaps, and we can look at pursuing this, but we're going to hear about 2 lawsuits, one with the jail, one with the class action in closed session today. Those are both self-insured. Those are both significant exposure for liability. We have an Eagle enforcement action at the landfill that can have fines in the range of millions of dollars. You know, I don't know what Eagle's doing, but they have not been particularly nice to us as far as working with a municipal landfill. So there's that issue out there, fines, penalties, additional costs. It's kind of frightening to think that that's all out in front of us, and then to spend $200,000 on something we may not be able to afford. I'm not saying we can't look at this. I just think it's bad timing. I don't think we'd look at it right now and pursue it until we settle some of those things. The other thing is our recent negotiations with employees. There are people out here looking for equity adjustments, and we're just broke. We just can't help it. We can only help 3 units of government get their equity adjustment. Everybody else has to wait, but yet we can pursue something like this. I don't like the balance of that, I'll be honest with you. You know, I couldn't get any traction with some equity adjustments that might have been necessary on some other matters. So the long and short of it is, you know, I would not support moving this to full board at this time. I think that the vote on it should be not to move it to full board and give us a chance to settle out these significant lawsuits, get a better handle on that, take a look at maybe some other priorities with the new board after the first of the year to see where we want to go with some of the priorities for the county. So I would not support this approval of this contract, even moving it to full board.
Any other comments? I do. Is there any urgency to have this done?
Our current building does have some aging issues that will cause us to have to invest probably about $200,000 in. It has an aging electrical system that cannot support our current operations. They're
So
not
we could
unable
fix it
to-
we could fix it at the cost of the engineering for the architect.
One of the issues we have is the building is so old, and as you know, once you start making repairs, then you have to get it up to current code. So is saying we just need to do a little bit of electrical. Once we get started, then we're going to have a lot of things to bring up to date. And yes, that could all be done, but there is also a space issue. We don't have enough space in that building to accommodate current operations either, and we do scale back services frequently. public have animals they want to bring in, you know, and they get very frustrated with us because they're constantly turned away because we are full every single day.
Well, I guess, you know, that's something to look at, but we, just like with, years ago with Marine Patrol, that one of the lieutenants came in and wanted more fuel for their patrol because they used all their gas money up, and I said, no, you get this level of enforcement, you park the boat, you know, so just because there's no room for every animal that someone wants to bring in, I think we're adequately and reasonably supporting our animal control in the county, and to expand it just because there's more need for room, I just don't think it's a good time to do it. I can't say we can't do it. I can't say I'd be opposed to it. But I'm really kind of spooked by this whole issue. And we've had these discussions, these unsecured, uninsured potential liabilities, and we're just pushing ahead. You know, I just am a no, and I respect. I know it's important to you too. I know it's something that you are actually in control of or head of that. That's under your bailiwick. So I do respect that, wanting to get that done and good reasons for it. But I just think it's not good timing for it to be, you know, to do that. That's all.
No, and the board is going to see some large capital projects coming forward because even though these other things are out here, we do have the obligation to maintain our buildings in good working order for the employees, for the staff, and for the public. You are going to see some large expenditures, especially surrounding the intervention center with some upgrades that need to happen. I do want to speak to it, and I do understand the employee equity adjustments. One thing to note with this is a one-time cost, and an equity adjustment is forever.
What's more important, equity or the animal control? I mean, you know, I'm just saying.
Well, but this wouldn't pay for an equity. This would pay for an equity adjustment for this year, but that cost maintains
just a little bit of math I can do. It might pay for maybe half of 1,000 employees to get 1% or something. But I get it. But whatever we can do, if we could help instead of 3, help 6. You know, if we instead of 3, help 9. I don't know. It just seems like the priority-wise. Let's show our employees we're going to put them first. We're going to take care of our employees, and we're going to do everything else we need to do. But it just seems bad timing, and I'm just literally spooked by, because I'm an attorney. I know what can happen in lawsuits, and Mr. Shouty here shortly is going to be telling us what some of the potential liabilities are here in a number of areas. We got to be careful not to get too much on our plate. That's my only point.
Any other discussion? This is one of the items that I highlighted, so if we could, we got a motion and a second, correct?
Correct.
What I would like on this is a roll call vote. If you would, please.
This is just to move it to full board.
I know, just go to full board.
This is to move it to full board.
But
not final. Okay.
If it fails, it can be brought back. If it fails, it can be brought back. So that's fine. Or if it passes, it can go.
It's like, in just my position when I was township supervisor and been here, it's important for the people to know where we stand on certain issues that are important. A lot of stuff we do, we go through very quick because it's mundane, it's just business that we have to do as commissioners. This one I think is important, and I can't ask for a roll call.
I just meant that a vote today doesn't mean that it's a final action. I just wanted to make that point. That this is to continue the conversation for a couple weeks.
Commissioner Samasco.
No.
Commissioner Baldwin.
Yes.
Commissioner Beeden.
Yes.
Commissioner Torello.
Yes.
Commissioner Rushing.
No.
Commissioner Vandenbosch.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, going on to 7B. Commissioner Beeden, District 3, American Rescue Plan Project.
I'll make a motion to send that to full board.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. 7C, Commissioner Torello, District 4, American Rescue Plan Act.
Make a motion to send it to full board.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. 7D, Commissioner Vandenbosch, District 7, American Rescue Plan Act project.
Make a motion to send it to full board.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. 7E, Commissioner Rushing, District 6, American Rescue Plan Act project for Ira Township.
Motion to send that to full board.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. 7G, Commissioner Rushing, District 6, American Rescue Plan Act project for Casco.
Motion to send that to full board.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. 7H, Metropolitan Planning Commission reclassification request.
Motion to send that to full board.
Support.
Did I have a support? Any discussion?
I had a question, Carrie. Carrie, now this reclassification request, would that be a budget neutral, or is that something that's going to require budget adjustments?
This will require a small budget adjustment of about $2,200.
Thank you.
Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. 7I, AT&T Internet Contract.
Make a motion to send to full board.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. 7J, Commissioner Vanderbosch, District 7 American Rescue Plan Act Project.
Make a motion to send it to full board.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. 7K, Blue Water Convention Center, ASM Global Management Agreement. It's an extension.
Make a motion to send that to full board.
Support.
Any discussion?
I had a question on it for Carrie, I guess. You know, back when this convention center initiated, way back in probably 2010, I was on the board, and I voted against it because we borrowed money to build a 40,000 square foot convention center with the best possible prediction to lose 250,000 a year, and it just didn't make a lot of sense to me. But we did it in the name of, I guess, economic development and tourism, so we have it. And since then, we've supported that. But it's always, when I got back on the board, I looked at the numbers, and at the time I said, it's recommended at 250, it's probably more. Well, since 2015, it's been 500,000 a year. And that's fine, it is what it is, but this global management agreement, we're extending an agreement to have it managed, and I guess we can't get it any closer to the 250, but I noticed it went from 500 actual to like a metric of 450. Did you see that in there, like there, does he get more money if he makes 450, or do we just get the extra?
So their contract has always had performance incentives in it, where if they hit certain either financial performance targets, then they get an incentive payment in addition to the base fee. So they have not hit the financial incentive since inception, and it doesn't appear that they will, because
It does not appear that they will.
no, and the financial incentive also includes the debt payment, so it's not just operational, it's the debt payment that we make on there as well.
Okay, thank you.
Carrie, how many years do we have left on the bond? Just guessing, 15 maybe? Because if it was 2010, it was a 30-year, wasn't it?
I don't remember. I can get that
me know
information
when-
for you, I'm sorry.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. 7L, equity adjustment. Can I have a motion?
Move to full board. Come on, second, come on.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Wait, I do have a question.
I'm sorry, what?
There's no attachment in our packet, so could I get some background information on this?
Well, we had the closed session. Carrie can explain it to you.
This is a request from the prosecutor to adjust his chief assistant prosecutor due to encroachment after the increases went into effect for his senior APA. So this was his request to address the encroachment.
So encroachment means the junior, that the senior guy is getting, they're moving close to his pay, so he wants more. Kind of.
Yes.
So they didn't plan this out when they came to us the first
A rising
time?
tide floats all boats, I get it. Well, that was part of our discussions in the closed session on the problems that Mike had with his office with retention. I get all that. I think that flows from that, doesn't it? Or is this something?
Yes, the county, in your salary and wage policy, there is a provision for encroachment, which would
Really?
be, a supervisor would be 2 steps above anyone they supervise. So this would move him up 1 step to be within your policy.
So it's driven by policy.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
Motion passed. 7M, Commissioner Beaton, District 3 American Rescue Plan Act Project Amendment.
Make a motion to send that to full board.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. Do we have any other Ways and Means Matters? We have no information only. Can I have a motion to receive and file?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. We're going to be going to closed session, so I'd like a motion to go to closed session and have an adjournment in addition to that motion.
Make a motion to go to closed session and adjourn.
Robert's rules require that we state the reason for close, or the Open Meetings Act requires we state the reason, so perhaps council can indicate the basis for the closed session and how it qualifies under the Open Meetings Act.
It's set forth in your agenda, which provides for review of two pending litigation matters, and to review those with counsel that's specifically permitted under the Open Meetings Act.
And collective bargaining negotiation strategy.
Oh, I'm sorry, you have that as well.
Yep.
Okay, yes, and collective bargaining negotiation strategy, which is a separate section, a separate.
I don't,
to go into closed session.
just as long as the motion reflects that, yeah, it's
It
something
will.
that's just required.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We are in closed session.
Now, is that a motion for closed session and adjournment to follow?
Yes.
Did that? Okay.